I'd like to pull up this this tweet from, how do you say this guy's name? Robert Reich?
Robert Reich.
Yeah. Reich?
Oh, man.
I think it's Reich.
Is it Reich?
Pretty sure.
Reich?
Yeah.
I'd like to pull up this tweet from him in which he basically copies a tweet from me from 7 years ago or whatever. He says, Musk and his apologists say if consumers don't like what he does with Twitter, they can go elsewhere. But where else would consumers go to post short messages that can reach millions of people other than Twitter? The free market increasingly reflects the demands of big money. It's called platform monopoly. It's bad for our democracy as well as our economy. Well, you know what, Robert? Too effing bad. You've lost any good faith response from me in this effort because you and your ilk have spent the entirety of the past 6 years burning everything to the ground, spitting in the face of people who had political disagreements with you. And now that you're poised to lose, you think you can come back and say, oh, this platform monopoly is a big problem. Well, that's what I was saying, 7 years ago. And now that you've come crawling back, I say this. You don't get to wage war and then once you start losing or fear losing, come and beg for a ceasefire. I'm not playing that. Elon Musk is going to be doing exactly what, well, we're hoping that Elon Musk will do what we've been hoping someone would do with Twitter, and that is bring free speech. So you don't have to leave, Robert. You get to stay and say all of your dumb things to everybody, and we are not calling for you to be banned. We just want the rules to be transparent. We want people who are suspended for BS fake reasons like carpe donkdom to be reinstated, and you can go cry about platform monopoly somewhere else because we've all been taking issue with that for some time. Your complaints are duly noted and duly ignored.
Does that article show his tweet from like 3 years ago where he said it's a private company and could do it at once?
Yeah, he said
literally how it started, where it's going.
No, his tweet that everyone's highlighting, and they're pointing it out as hypocritical. He said that the people complaining about the First Amendment on Twitter failed to realize it's a private company and they can do what they want. He's not wrong. The First Amendment is pertaining to government restriction. However, most people aren't saying the First Amendment. If he wants to highlight truly ignorant people who are incorrectly saying the First Amendment, by all means, he can go and do that. Most people who believe in free speech are talking about the principle of free speech, one in which the First Amendment protects but exists outside of the Constitution. The principle of free speech is that we respect that other people will say things we don't like in the public discourse. Twitter does not respect free speech. Facebook, YouTube, none of these platforms do. Twitter used to. Web 1.0 was truly a glorious time. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Web 1.0.
Yeah, I don't know. The lack of self-awareness is astounding. I mean, look, I never exactly pictured him as the kind of person who was really in touch with what people who disagreed with him were saying or thinking, but you have to have literally not heard a single thing a conservative has said for the past 5 years to make this point and think you're saying anything.
Be fair, Seamus.
Yes.
If these people are only watching CNN, of course that's the case.
No, exactly. But to have a political platform that large when you have no idea what the other side is saying is...
That's what drives me nuts, the free speech, the term free speech. It's like free speech. They don't. It's like a buzzword. It's free code. Big networks need free code, not free speech. Free speech. Who's deciding? The owner of the network? You can't tell them what to do.
Here, all I'm saying is Robert Reich should be more like me and know enough about his opponent's position to make fun of them in short form cartoons. But he's not there.
What is it about our intellectual class where they get so much stuff so desperately wrong?
Exactly. Well, and this is what's so depressing. It's not as if we have an intellectual class which is mediocre. We have an intellectual class which is stupid. They're dumb. They're really unintelligent.
Do you think they're affluent? Is it affluenza?
Bad faith.
Affluenza.
I think it's pride. I think pride blinds people.
I think they have to push a certain company line, and they doesn't matter how they lie or get stuff wrong to achieve it. There's just company line you got to put out, and you got to stick with it. And if you stray from that company line, you no longer have a job.
Well, and the question is, does he believe this? Or is he just, as you're saying, trying to toe the company line? Does he think it would be an effective strategy? Because my point is, whether he believes it or not, to think that it's an effective strategy to out yourself as a hypocrite so blatantly, to me, is bizarre.
Come on, they do it every day.
Yeah.
It's something you learn about frauds. They're stupid and they're liars. There's no division there.
Right.
Rational people have that division.
There are people right now
that
are complaining because Al Franken basically was forced to resign in disgrace over that photo where he was, grabbing that woman's chest. And they're complaining about this Madison Cawthorn photo where he's got women's lingerie on on a cruise at a party. And I can't remember who tweeted it, but they were like, Al Franken was forced to resign over something much less salacious than this. And it's like, no, he wasn't. He assaulted a woman. Like Madison Cawthorn's in a chair drinking at a party and doing silly things. Call him, say it's inappropriate, fine, whatever, it's a party, but he didn't grab and assault someone.
And he's actually representing most Americans.
Well, so my point is...
And they're very awake women right next to him.
My point is that they're creating this false hypocrisy where they try and pull things up. They're like, haha, this is hypocritical. And it's like, dude, Robert Reich tweeting this, which we all tweeted 7 or 8 years ago, is absolutely astounding. He just one day came to realize, truly these people are vapid and devoid of any curiosity. They don't care what other people think. They make things up. They regurgitate them. And that's why we bought a billboard in Times Square, with special thanks to Daily Wire for helping make it happen, that says Taylor Lorenz doxed libs of TikTok, because you don't get to go on TV and just lie without getting some pushback. So that's us pushing back, even if it's a small gesture.
Yeah, I like your war analogy, because it's kind of like being the aggressor and attacking someone else, and as soon as they fight back, you're like, all we are saying is give peace a chance. Like, dude, you guys started this. This is your fault.
It's not when you fight back. It's when they realize they might lose.
Yeah.
They're like, wait. You mean that guy I picked a fight with actually is an MMA fighter? Mm-hmm. Actually, did you guys see the Joe Rogan episode with that MMA guy? He said that he got into politics because he saw Antifa beating up some dude.
Oh, wow.
And he tried to pull him off, and they start fighting him. And he beat the crap out of him. And then they immediately backed off, realizing he had the power.
Sounds like a right-wing terrorist to me, Tim.
The left right now is fascistic. Yeah. They believe there is no truth but power. Antifa uses violence against people because they believe in using violence to gain power. When that MMA guy tried saving that dude and defended himself, and they realized he had more power physically than they did, they retreated. Mm-hmm. No surprise there.
Well, yeah,
the convictions are only as weak and flabby as their little arms.
I'm surprised the local district attorney didn't land the MMA fighter in prison.
Seriously. No, and so the left, they're basically a metronome, and they very quickly go back and forth between I'm very tough, be scared of me, and I'm a poor, sweet, innocent little victim, someone come protect me.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like bipolar, someone that's bipolar.
Sounds like someone who's lying to gain power.
It sounds like, somebody, whatever gets them more power, they do it.
This Reich guy, Robert Reich, I remember him being kind of vocal about Hillary's emails when that Podesta emails dropped, 13,000 emails that they ended up trying to hide from the public, 30,000. And he was a big proponent of Bernie Sanders at the time, and was really involved with the progressive movement as it seemed like it might actually function, kind of what Trump picked up the reins of. And then he went full TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, in this hate of Donald Trump, which is like, it was just so party politics, like cult thought. So I thought Reich was really smart until that. Now I'm like, I don't know. He's not wrong that because social media monopoly is dangerous.
Reich wants big government and big business, whereas Trump felt like, look, just give people a chance at a decent wage, and you don't need either. And that's where Reich, basically, if you don't have big government and big business, Reich is out of a job.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what you'll see often is, I'd be interested to see what happens when the right, if the right ever gets institutional power, will they become as hypocritical, or will they just defend their side because now they have the power and the ability to wield it? I kind of lean towards no, because at least over the past 8 or so years, the Republicans have just sat on their hands and said, slow down there, Democrats, and then done nothing.
That's definitely true. I would say if we saw genuine conservatives, real pro-family leaders take power, there would be corruption, because that's just always going to exist in any human institution. But I do believe it would be much more structured and effective and honest than anything we're seeing from a left-wing authority structure, because, as I've said before, leftism is just a synonym for social decay, and they don't have any real principles. So people on the right have genuine values that they try to hold to and that they're accountable to. The left doesn't. All they have is the pursuit of power.
I think it's a little broad to say leftism just means social decay.
I disagree.
I think there's a generational divide. I think modern leftism, there's a reason boomer is an insult. This goes all the way back to the boomer 60s and Woodstock and the civil rights movement and all that. And you still see it, like in my hometown. People are still waiting for that, civil rights movement to come back, and they're 70, 80 years old, and it's just, the younger generations have had enough of it. And there's going to be, it's like a clash of the titans. The new generation is being born. It's what we said earlier with new media taking over legacy media. And you see these legacy media companies that just don't get new media. They'll pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars for somebody equally clueless about how to go viral on new media when they can hire the teenager down the street who's got like 100,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram.
I mean, you take a look at Chicken City.
Yeah, more subscribers than CNN, more money than CNN.
Well, they had 150,000 paying subscribers on a $300 million initial investment, up to $1 billion.
So probably more profit.
But I honestly do think that Chicken City has made, or at least in the first 30 days, is on track to make more money than CNN Plus. No. That's not true at all. But my point is, bringing up Chicken City is just because I think it's hilarious how successful it's become. But you were mentioning it before the show, like none of these people would ever won't think of something like this. Yeah. How do you engage community? How do you've got even the Daily Wire is doing a really, really great job fighting back. They're like, we're going to make a children's show, and they are still very much approaching this in a traditional way with new technologies. And the stuff we're working on is trying to be very different, much more like a Skunk Works or something. Chicken City is a wild and weird idea with chicken parties, but it's very much working in terms of creating a new kind of family content.
Well, part of why I would argue that I imagine Chicken City is more profitable than CNN Plus because you have, pun intended, recouped your costs. CNN Plus was how much did you say they invested? 300 million?
Sir, you are correct.
Yeah,
yes.
so you're turning a profit on Chicken City.
Right. I mean, look, a chicken rave is more interesting than a Jake Tapper book club in absolute terms.
I mean,
right?
The noises aren't all that different, but the chickens are more entertaining to watch.
You're talking about The View.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone keeps coming into Chicken City and saying, "Is this The View?"
You're right about legacy media not knowing what they're doing.
Not only do they not know what they're doing, they don't know who to talk to figure out what to do.
Well, I think it's
not like, oh, hey, wait, Tim Pool seems to understand viral content. Let me reach out and see if he can give me a referral on how to advertise my whatever you want.
Yeah, there's moment of cognitive dissonance where it's like, no, that can't be working. Even though they see it working, it's like, that can't be working. It can't be working. It takes like 2 years before they're like, oh, we were wrong.
It takes
right.
never.
Now, how do we profit?
It's something
like
I learned
years.
about science. It's like the old generation never gets a clue. They just die away and the new generation takes over.
So what's happening is we've seen that with like CBS, ABC. That's legacy, old golden age. Now we've got this modern legacy, which is like Facebook, YouTube, sorry guys, Twitter, these centralized services. That's going the way of the dodo as well. It's moving towards federation, and decentralization. So networks that aren't already focused on that are also going to start falling away. You've seen Facebook.
No, but it's even with all the political pressure. For example, like Rakita Media, when they did the Kyle Rittenhouse case, they like eclipsed any of the big three networks in their coverage because not only was it like timely, they got the feed, but they had intelligent analysis of it. Whereas the legacy networks, they were caught with their pants
Not only
down.
that, but I believe for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial right now, big news, Rakita Law, I think, is the #1 super chatted channel in the country this week with their coverage of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial.
They were great during the Rittenhouse trial.
Did you guys watch any of the
They
trial? I
exploded.
tuned in. I was like, I got to know. We've been talking about Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. I'm like, I just got to get a taste. So I went on and watched, and it's John being really funny. And he's just making people laugh. That's why that thing's so popular right now, because he's hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm missing out.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I try not to pay attention to celebrities, but I did see a couple of clips of him responding to questions while the lawyer was harassing him, and it was genuinely pretty funny.
Yeah. It's like some of the best thing on TV right now, besides this show.
Yeah, of course.
Let's
see if we can get 'em on.
The danger that these new legacy social networks have is that they're centralized. So like the NSA can go into their database and give them a gag order and then just take control of the network. So if you have centralized services like logins and passwords, that's all legacy stuff, man.
Lids, I sent you my meme about finding the feds in the data center. I said when Elon Musk inspects Twitter, that's who he's going to find.
We talked about who's going to be on the ban list. It's the people on the blacklists.
Yeah.
The people that are deranked and don't know it, all that's going to start coming out.
That's what I'm saying. That's my main issue with Twitter is like the people who are interesting, you just don't see them and you have no idea why. And they don't have any idea why.
I wonder how many people are going to go to prison. Maybe it's a stretch to assume. But I imagine the testimony that we heard before Congress was false. And
Really?
that Elon Musk is going to have documents showing shadow banning and all that stuff they claim they didn't do. The issue, however, is going to be that Jack Dorsey is going to be like, Well, at the time, I
frankly,
didn't know that it was going on, and I was acting under the advisement of our legal counsel. So
you know what they say, the buck stops with the legal counsel. It's not my fault.
Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey on this show. Open invite,
Let's do
guys.
it.
Would love to have you. That'd be amazing. I hit up Joe Rogan. I was like, you, me, Elon, Jack Dorsey, Twitter episode round 2.
Oh my God. That would be epic.
But you know, if whether something like that could actually happen, I kind of feel like I'd once again just kind of like shoving myself in there.
You have to wait for Elon to take over Twitter and make agreements with Jack Dorsey about what he can and can't say, sign the proper NDA, and then you're going to hear Jack Dorsey unfettered.
It's so good. I've been planning a tech symposium with like Chris at Rumble, Bill Ottman at Minds. You know, we got Gab, we got Andrew Torba, we got Jeremy Kaufman at Odyssey. There's Jack Dorsey with Twitter. Now Elon can be involved. And he's a developer. He's a coder, man. This guy, it's so great to have him at the table.
Right.
I think he bought Twitter so he could go. He's like, I want to be in on it.
He read my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, he can look at the algorithms and figure out what's up. That's the exciting part.
It'd be funny if like the only thing he does is just tweet at some like celebrity like Sia or something, and he's like, "Yo, I would really love to meet you and hang out." And then afterwards, he just sells the company back. Like, that's all I wanted to do. Like, I didn't know how to get a hold of this person. So yeah. I'm rich.
I am curious what his long-term plans are. He says he wants to make it a more free speech platform.
I know his long-term plan.
Somebody was
He's
saying
going to go public again once it's worth way more.
No, he's not planning on
Take a
making
look
it
at this
profitable.
tweet.
Really?
We have this tweet from Trung Fan. Hacker News speculating on how Twitter will integrate with SpaceX for interplanetary communication. What? Someone wrote, this is from Generalizations, I'm surprised no one has mentioned that Twitter is probably the best social media platform for interplanetary communication, where low bandwidth and delayed transmission are fundamental bottlenecks, and both limitations are considered part of the appeal. In that case, I wonder if the monetization will ultimately be based on latency and message size. Pay more for your message to be sent from Mars the next transmission, and pay more to send a larger message. Locally, I wonder if Twitter will be tied to Starlink in some fashion. Think about this. Elon Musk apparently launched some shell companies, and there might be a single parent company for SpaceX, Tesla, and Twitter. He might actually want to make sure Twitter works because it's the only social media platform that would work via interplanetary communications. Facebook could theoretically work, but you'd be limited. This makes a really, really good point. The appeal of Twitter is character limitations, in which case it's optimized for sending messages back and forth.
Can you send a software update to the Voyager craft to tweet?
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, look, if this gets hooked up to SETI somehow or aliens end up seeing Twitter, we're in gigantic trouble. Like, this could really spell disaster for the human race.
We sent out Voyager with that golden disc or whatever with, like, basic math and pictures of humans. And then it's like, it's floating out there. But what beats it is the transmission of at the speed of light of Twitter. Right. And so then one day, right before the Voyager craft reaches the alien vessel, the wave of Twitter hits the ship, and then they see everything.
I've never seen a thin person drink Diet Coke. They're like, what is this?
Well, the good news is all that stuff gets scrambled after a certain number of light years away. But the other one is, imagine a Mars rover that live tweeted. That's highly practical. Yeah,
I mean, it's really easy to receive transmissions and convert them to tweets. One of the things that a friend of mine did was you could use dial-up internet to tweet, and they did this really interesting way where they converted the text into Morse code. Mm-hmm. Morse code, then traveled over the phone line to a voice to text, which converted the Morse code back into text and then tweeted it out. Crazy stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When you had no means of like
Morse code was the original Twitter. Come on,
it's true. People try to limit their character count, and I gotta say though, right? Twitter really did disprove the aphorism that brevity is the soul of wit, because it's all short and it's all the dumbest thing you've ever read.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.